Yes, everyone should use Temporal. Yeah. So good afternoon, everyone. Last session for the conference, hope everyone had a good last 3 days. Okay. So I think some people are still coming. Yeah. As the last session of the conference, I just want to have a quick poll. Quick show of hands, how many of you are excited about this session? Last session? Good number of people. Myself also. And now, how many of you are excited about the comedy show and the after party? Okay. Even I am excited. So I will be keeping it very engaging and informative, so every one of us can head to the after party altogether. A bit about myself. As I got introduced, I'm working as a tech lead in the Equinix at Silicon Valley office. And I have more than 13 years of experience in the software industry. My interest area lies in basically distributed system, digital interconnection, and cybersecurity space. On the community initiatives, I'm also involved in a lot of IEEE activities, conferences, research contributions, and also the STEM advocacy and AI literacy for the rural areas. That's where I'm working and spending a lot of time. And about personal front, so I'm an avid hiker. In the United States, there are 63 national parks. I have hiked 25 national parks, and you can see in the picture with my newborn. I was hiking in the Yosemite National Park in California. And as I just mentioned, I have become a father to a son. So any new parents here? Okay, just want to mention the managing workflows with Temporal is much more easier than managing or getting your toddler to a bedtime on time. Do you guys agree? So I think you guys are running already a most resilient workflow at your home. Okay? So a bit about Equinix. How many of you have heard about Equinix? Quite a bunch of people, good. And last 2 days, even I was talking to some folks, I see that a lot of our customers who are using Equinix. So those of you who have not heard about Equinix, I will tell you how you are using unknowingly Equinix in last 1 hour or so, and even right now maybe, okay? So Equinix is the world's largest digital infrastructure company, okay? So if you are coming here via any ride-sharing services, if you are already texting someone or you streamed a movie yesterday night, okay? So there is high probability that your data has gone through Equinix data center, okay? And that's what Equinix does, digital infrastructure that powers your daily life. Our mission at Equinix is to making a digital infrastructure more powerful, accessible, and sustainable. So in today's digital-first world, having a digital backbone for your businesses is the most important thing to get the digital advantage and provide the services to the customers. And that's what Equinix helps everyone, or all the customers, to assemble this digital infrastructure in much more efficient way and quicker way, so customers can scale their deployments much more faster way. And how do we do it? So you can see here on this slide, when I talk about infrastructure, we do this at a global scale. More than 260 plus data center across the world, across the 73 major metros, across more than 34 countries, this digital infrastructure is spread out. And wherever your business takes you, Equinix has covered you. And now talking about the reliability aspect of the things, 99.999, 5 nines availability over the whole data center infrastructure. So let's be real, I think no one likes downtime. Even though Wi-Fi goes down for 5 minutes, no one likes it, okay? So you can consider this infrastructure as world's most reliable Wi-Fi over your own digital infrastructure, okay? And with this level of reach and reliability, Equinix help businesses to scale, innovate, and continue to do their business without skipping a bit. So Equinix has a lot of products, okay, from the colocation to the digital services. So where do I work and what is the case study about Temporal in my product? So this is where I work within the Equinix, that is a digital interconnection, the fabric product. And with few use cases, I will explain what is the interconnection and how it is relevant in current world. The first thing is about multi-cloud adoption. I think today morning, if you have attended Sergey's session about reliability, and he was mentioning everyone want to be free, right? With the cloud adoption, they don't want to get vendor lock-in into single cloud. So just a quick question. I think most of you, I believe, might be using already multiple clouds. Any particular reasons you guys using multiple clouds when you are deploying your services? Any decision making, why maybe something's running in Azure, something's running in AWS?
BigQuery in GCP and services in AWS.
So that's a pretty good example. So that's exactly, so what is happening nowadays is multi-cloud adoption is increasing, right? There could be, as you mentioned, one of the reasons, there could be multiple other reasons, strategic locations, availability of services, okay? And then pricing could be one reason. And no one want to be locked in into particular single vendor. And that's where Equinix basically helps to establish you a connectivity across the multiple cloud in much more efficient way. Because when you are dealing with multiple clouds, it is good for customer to deploy and all, but your networking infrastructure is scattered, right? And that's where you want to have private and secure connectivity. You cannot rely on public internet when you running your critical workloads. And that is where Equinix Fabric provides much more efficient way to connect and weave your digital infrastructure across the multiple cloud and within your private data center also. And that's what the Equinix Fabric does. The second use case I will mention, which is much prevalent now. Yesterday's keynote, I think, everyone liked AI demo, right? And as Preeti mentioned that nowadays no presentation or nothing goes without mentioning AI. So I have to talk about it, and I will tell how the Equinix Fabric helps here. So till now, I think we have seen AI use cases were in experimental phases. A lot of companies were trying out, experimenting and all. But now we are getting into the real world use cases, production ready use cases. And trend is shifting from hybrid AI to the private AI. So what is private AI? So currently, because of the regulatory reason, just before the previous session, you might have heard a case study from Miro. The regulatory reason, data leakage issue, and privacy concerns. So that's where companies are moving towards the private AI, where they want to train their models inside the private data center, okay? And once this training is done, then during that time also, the transferring of data from the cloud to the private data center, or maybe once the training is done, the use cases has to be served throughout the cloud. And all these use cases where you have to transfer the data across the cloud, migration, regulatory reason, that is where the digital interconnection becomes much more prevalent, where you want to do this at a much more higher bandwidth, like 50 gig, 100 gig, where you want to transfer this data in private and secure manner without relying on public internet again, okay? So that's where the digital interconnection fabric product comes into picture. So this is the summary slide where you can see the power of interconnection system, where Fabric platform brings together thousands of service providers, cloud providers, network service providers, even some of the SaaS solutions and applications, enterprises together, and gives the possibility for our customers not only to connect to their own use cases, but find the new other partners in the ecosystem to connect to and build much more value. So now, so far, you understood what is the Equinix, what is the Fabric product actually does. But now I want to get into the temporal aspect where the system orchestration, because while hearing it looks much more amazing, maybe you as application developer not looking into these pieces, but your team's network admins or SREs or DevOps team might be dealing with all these things. So the orchestration challenges when we talk about interconnection, the first thing is multi-step customer journey, what we talk about. So there are multiple ways to order this interconnection or getting into our onboarding into our system. And one way is to via our portal, customer can order online interconnection. There is a sales-assisted way also, that is offline mechanism, customer can order interconnection. Even though it gives the flexibility to the customer to interact with our system multiple ways, but in our backend system, it adds complexity because each and every way the customer interacts, it is a independent orchestration of the workflow. So that is where the complexity comes into picture. The second is multiple personas. So customers for our product are basically actual end customers, which are actually network admins in your big organization. There could be resellers who are selling our product on behalf of us, and they are also interacting with our system. So these different personas also brings a different complexity in the workflow orchestration because not each and every one can do each and everything. So there will be different mechanism we have to handle when we orchestrate the workflow. One more last thing which is important for our ecosystem to grow is partners onboarding and service providers onboarding into platform. So this workflow also has a significantly different from other workflows, and again, backend orchestration becomes a complex when we talk about this particular use case. So that was about the customer onboarding. Now actually, the actual interconnection onboarding, how the orchestration works there. So as Equinix Fabric provides purely digital products as well as some layer 2 connection products where you need to have physical presence or you have to order ports in the data center. So when the very first step is ordering the physical port at your strategic location where you want to connect from, okay? So the customer have to order from our 260 data center, the particular location where they want to put the port. So once they order the port, the second step is basically the physically connecting, the human actually goes, connects the customer's infra from the data center to the actually ordered port, okay? That is where the durability aspect comes into, which I will come when I touch into temporal aspect. But after once the port ordering is done, the next thing is establishing the connection. So connection has to be established from that port to the choice of your cloud provider, where you want to connect to. What is the point B, where you want to go? Maybe AWS, GCP, or Azure cloud. So once you identify that, and the next step is basically configuring by going onto that cloud provider portal. Via API mechanism, we orchestrate that, or there are some steps, each cloud provider has a different way where you have to do that part. Then final thing, testing and validating this connection. If the traffic flowing will not get disrupted, everything is looking good for your production ready traffic to go through it. The next step in this orchestration is basically configuring any kind of high availability aspect like redundancy or failover mechanisms. That's where you might have to configure multiple connections. And final thing, once you go live, monitoring the connections. If anything going down, your connection traffic is getting impacted, so all the monitoring aspect of the thing. So this was about the journey of the workflow. And now, what are the challenges we are facing during this workflow orchestration? So the very first thing, interaction with multiple cloud providers and vendor-specific workflow. This is the major pain point. Though customer likes to have distributed workload across the multiple cloud, the orchestrating network deployment across the multiple cloud provider is difficult and challenging part because each and every cloud provider has their own way of working, provisioning of the network. Like AWS calls it VPC, there are different steps to do with it. Other cloud provider does different way. Other network service providers, maybe Verizon or some other, they do in a different way when you connect with them. So all those mechanisms and workflows we have to accommodate and taken into account when we develop all these things. Second is our product is not purely a software product, as there is a hardware involvement. So that is another challenge. Doing orchestration at the hardware level along with doing orchestration at the software level. So this whole journey makes complete interconnection establishment. So that is the one more complexity. Now coming to the long running asynchronous and event driven processes. So when you establish a port, and as I said, one of the step was human has to go and connect that port to the actual customer's infrastructure. So that is like a long process, right? It can take 5 minutes to 1 hour to 1 day sometimes, okay? But when we design the workflow, it has to be resumed when that step is done. And that is one of the critical aspects to have end-to-end interconnection established. Next is, as we deal with hardware, definitely their hardware fails sometimes, right? So occasionally whenever this hardware failure happens, someone has to manually check the things and replace the hardware and all those things. But when these things are done, after that again, resuming the workflow from where it was stuck. So this is another complexity. Cross-regional orchestration complexity. As our presence is across the globe, when we deploy this networking infrastructure across the multiple data center, maybe APAC, MR, and other places, or the cloud provider regions are across the globe. So that is where the complexity to handle this orchestration across the multi-region. And the last thing is, when you do this, you saw the steps, how many steps are involved, and how many different things comes into picture to establish a single interconnection. And at the end, we need to have proper visibility into each and every step. And that is one of the complexity we deal with on day-to-day basis to have proper visibility into network provisioning. Okay, so far you heard about the workflow challenges, complexities, and this is where we wanted to have proper workflow orchestration mechanism. And we landed at very first thing at open source Cadence. That is where we started our journey with. At 2019, we started doing a POC. We wanted to have a scalable orchestration platform. Then we adopted Cadence till 2020 across the teams. The adoption started increasing. Then comes the Temporal into picture, 2023. We started evaluating Temporal. And currently, a lot of our infrastructure running on Temporal right now. So in this slide, you see jump from Cadence to Temporal, okay? So let's go and see why we made that decision, okay? Challenges with the Cadence. Initially, when our product was growing and we were looking to have orchestration tool, Cadence was helping us initially. But as the scope increased, multiple teams started using the maintenance aspect came into picture. That's where who maintains, how maintains, and also how much time spent on the maintaining for the platform team. Second thing is debugging and monitoring. So as with any open source solution, community involvement is there, a lot of feature comes in, but debugging and monitoring aspect, we were struggling. Whenever the production issue hits, going down to RCA and finding the issue, that was a little bit challenging with the limited capability we were getting with Cadence. Upgrade support. So this is another open source challenge where you need to spend a lot of time on basically any new versions, new upgrades, security patches, vulnerability hits like always, right? Some or other things, and we have to keep systems up to date. So that was one of the challenge we were facing. Next, multi-region deployment, because we deal with multi-region networking aspect, and also for high availability and scale issues, we want to have multi-region deployment. Though that is one of the challenge we faced. We did some internal tooling and all those things with Cadence, but still that was not helping us throughout. And when we hit all these things, that is where we started evaluating, is there any solution which is managed solution? And the natural, because the Temporal also has a history based on the Cadence thing. So you can see naturally we evolved towards migrating to basically temporal. The very first thing, benefit or win, is definitely fully managed durable execution. No need to spend on maintenance, and our dev team was able to spend a lot of time into delivering actual customer-facing features and value. Next is enhance visibility. If you guys have listened to yesterday's talk about how to build temporal workflows with Java, I think there was very well presentation about how the observability aspect, metrics, and traces can be exported and can be utilized. So that is how we built some internal tooling to get good observability that is additional to what Temporal provides out of the box on UI. That is also helping us to get the workflow execution states and all those things and helping us. Better scalability. So this is multi-region namespace. In last 2 days, we heard multiple times we are using multi-region namespace for high availability and scale thing. Okay, so since we were using Cadence earlier, so when we moved to Temporal, definitely the simplified APIs, that is one of the things we observed when we moved. Then async await patterns. So these things, as we were moving from Cadence to Temporal, these were noticeable things we observed when we adopted Temporal. And now the actual integration into our system. So how we have done is we are using parent-child workflows basically for orchestration or digital interconnection. So this is a very high-level diagram of our architecture, simplified version, where you can see the way we work or we design our system is a domain-driven plus layered architecture. So on the top, you can see the product layer, and below there is a platform layer. So we are having all the product layer functionalities into the parent workflow, basically intake of order, processing that order, any billing related aspect. And the child workflow is dealing with actually the platform level concept. So any kind of actual provisioning to the data center devices, pushing the config, or talking to multiple cloud provider APIs and synchronizing and orchestrating those interconnection things. So by having this way of organizing our workflows, we are able to isolate two different aspects of the interconnection journey, the platform and device level provisioning and product level aspect. And we are independently able to retry, so parent workflow can retry the child related workflow. If any network device provisioning is failing, we are able to handle it much more efficient way. So now the final part of it about the integration, when we started our journey, we did learn quite a lot of things, and the very first thing is think like workflows and not just events. Because this whole product, what I work on is like we work 8 to 9 teams on this product within the interconnection product side, and there is a networking hardware device, like there are different teams also. So when we deal with such massive teams, the one thing is bringing or changing the mindset of thinking like a workflow, on bringing everyone on the same page, that building that interconnection journey as a workflow instead of traditional way, because we are event-driven system completely. So that is where that mind shift was one of the initial thing. And with this, we are able to map whole interconnection journey as a workflow steps or basically activities, and that's how we have integrated Temporal. The second thing is state management. So as when you deal with so many steps in your workflows, managing states are important. And instead of we dealing with a complex state management logic, we relied completely on Temporal to manage a state. Basically, when you want to connect from, for example, A side to Z side, okay? So whether the A side configuration is completely done proper way, whether the Z side, we call it in a way, basically point A to point B. So the point B configuration is done proper way or not. So all independent state are managed via Temporal only. We are not complex state management, we are not doing internally within application. So that is one relief. Then embracing async await patterns. I heard from a lot of talks from last 2 days, a lot of people are using this and it is helping us also. Two of the use cases I mentioned earlier also. The actual cross-connect step when the actual physical interconnection is happening in the data centers. So that is where when the signal, whenever the actual physical interconnection is done, we get a signal to workflow and workflow resumes and go to the next steps to actually now start to the cloud level integration. So that is where one of the case we have utilized this very effectively. Next is about keeping activities focused. So I'm sure a lot of you who are adopting Temporal for quite a long time, but for any new people who are started the journey, I think one first lesson is to keeping workflows just for orchestration aspect and activities focused on your actual business logic and keeping it very simplified, granular level where you can reutilize those activities for maybe multiple workflows. On the learning for monitoring, error handling, and reliability aspect is event schema evolution. So as we support multiple types of interconnection from maybe data center to GCP, to the Azure, or to Alibaba Cloud, or any other thing. So each and every cloud, there will be some part will be common, and some part will be very specific to the thing. That is where we have to have the workflows designed in such a way we can have the backward compatibility to utilize some of the aspect, and have the forward evolution approach to design the new things also. Monitoring the workflow history. So all the workflow steps we are monitoring very heavily, and also using the traces and exported traces and metrics to see which step is taking how long time, analyze our business use cases, if anything is breaching SLA, any activity. So those aspects we are heavily monitoring. Last is about testing and error handling aspect. So we do have integration test integrated into our CI/CD, which runs against our test namespace. And one of the important thing, I think, designing the timeout for your activities. I think you have to be SLA driven with whatever step, what is your SLA, and then embed that SLA timeouts correctly into your activity timeout. So that is one of the lessons learned when we were doing, for example, the cross-connect case where identifying the optimal timeout values. And with this, I think we are coming to an end where I briefly shared Equinix journey with Temporal. Hope you got some insight which you can take away into your product or your use cases and implementation. And as I said, this is the last session of the day and last session of the conference. So I don't want to be in between you and the after party and the comedy show. So I just want to wrap this session soon. And when we meet at the after party, let's be remember like that everything works better at after party, just like Temporal workflows. Any questions? We have 1 minute, I think. Yep.
Any questions? Okay, I have a question. So with the evolving like schema compatibility of inputs and outputs to workflows, do you use like gRPC to iterate on those in a way that is like forward compatible and backward compatible, or like what is your method of?
No, so I think the way we are designing the workflow, I think that is where we are being mindful. But one thing I would like to mention, I think I had put in the slide, but listening to keynote and sessions, I think versioning, the worker versioning, that is one thing even a lot of speakers mentioned they are looking forward, even I'm looking forward to incorporate that, because that way I think we can get some advantage into this. Yep.
Cool. And then kind of on the topic of worker versioning, do you guys do anything for worker tuning right now?
Not really from our side, from the dev team.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool.